Lonely mountain man found a blonde woman hanging on the roof with Apache lover burned. He didn't mean to see her like that. Silas Crow was just looking for shade. The sun that day didn't burn, it punished. It cracked the earth like old bone. It turned his canteen to a hollow rattle. His boots kicked up dust that tasted like rust and regret. He'd been walking 3 days with nothing but jerky, a rusted Bowie knife, and the ghost of his dead wife whispering in the wind. He wasn't hunting. Wasn't running. Just, drifting. Like tumbleweed with no fence to catch it. Then he saw the cabin. It stood crooked on the ridge, half swallowed by sagebrush, its roof sagging like a tired man's shoulders. Smoke curled from the chimney, thin, gray, wrong. Not the fat, lazy smoke of stew or coffee. This was the ghost of fire. The kind that lingers after everything's already dead. He climbed the porch steps slow. Each creak sounded like a warning. The door hung open. Swinging just a little. Like something had left in a hurry. Inside, the smell hit him first, charred meat and wet ash. Then he saw the boots. 2 pairs. One small, leather-worn soft. Woman's. The other, moccasins. Beaded. Apache. His throat went dry. He stepped into the main room. Chairs overturned. A table split by axe. Blood smeared on the wall in frantic arcs. And then, the rope. It dangled from a ceiling beam. Swinging slow. Empty. He followed it with his eyes. Up. To the roof. Where she hung. Blonde hair tangled in the noose. Bare feet swaying 6 inches above the rafters. Her dress, once blue, now black with soot, fluttered like a surrender flag. Below her, sprawled across the floorboards, lay the body of a young Apache man. His chest split open. Arrows still jutting from his ribs. His face turned toward her. Eyes open. Mouth slack. Like he died watching her rise. Silas didn't move. Didn't breathe. Just stared. Who were they? Why were they here? And who the hell left them like this? The wind howled through the hollows. Silas backed out of the cabin like a man backing away from a rattler. His rifle stayed slung. His hands stayed empty. He didn't touch her. Didn't cut her down. Some things, once seen, can't be unseen. Some deaths demand witnesses. Not saviors. He sat on the porch step. Pulled his hat low. Let the silence press against his skull. He'd buried his wife 5 years back. Fever took her in a sod hut near Pecos. He'd held her hand as she coughed blood onto his shirt. Promised her he'd find peace. Promised her he'd stop running. He broke both promises before the dirt settled on her grave. Now this. A white woman. An Apache man. A lynching. A burning. This wasn't justice. This was message. And messages like this? They always had a sender. He stood. Walked to the edge of the ridge. Scanned the valley below. Dust hung low. No tracks. No riders. Just the buzzards already circling, black specks against a merciless blue. Someone wanted this found. Someone wanted him to see it. But why? A gunshot cracked the silence. Silas dropped behind a boulder before the echo died. Peered over the edge. 3 riders. Dust-coated. Hard-faced. Moving slow up the trail. The leader wore a preacher's collar, stained brown at the throat. His horse limped. His eyes scanned the ridge like a hawk hunting mice. Silas knew that face. Reverend Elias Boone. Preacher by Sunday. Posse leader by Monday. Hanged a boy for stealing bread once. Said God demanded balance. Said mercy was for the weak. Silas slid lower. Heart hammering against his ribs. Boone stopped 20 yards from the cabin. Dismounted. Took off his hat. Stared up at the hanging woman like he was admiring a painting. "She's still up there, boys," he called, voice dry as cracked leather. "Still dancin', Reverend," one rider answered. Grinning. "Missing teeth." Boone nodded. "Good. Let the heathen see what happens when white women forget their place." Silas's fingers curled around his knife. Heathen. The Apache boy on the floor couldn't have been more than 20. His beads were turquoise. His hair braided with eagle feathers. He didn't look like a savage. He looked like someone's son. And the woman? Silas hadn't seen her face. But her hands, soft. No calluses. Town-bred. Maybe ran from something worse than the desert. Boone stepped onto the porch. Kicked open the door wider. "Burn the rest," he ordered. "Leave the bodies. Let the coyotes preach the sermon." One rider dismounted. Pulled a torch from his saddlebag. Lit it with a match. Tossed it through the doorway. Flames licked the walls. Smoke billowed out. Silas didn't move. Couldn't. He watched the fire climb. Watched the woman's dress catch. Watched her hair curl and blacken in the heat. And then, a sound. Faint. From inside. A whimper. Alive. The church bell tolled far off. Or maybe it was the wind. Or maybe it was his mind breaking. Silas didn't care. He moved. Fast. Low. Rifle in hand now. Boots silent on the dry grass. He circled behind the horses. Cut the reins of Boone's mount. Slapped its rump. The horse bolted down the ridge, whinnying. Chaos. The riders spun. Cursing. Drawing iron. Boone shouted, "Ambush! Take cover!" Silas didn't give them time. First shot, center mass. Rider with the torch dropped like a sack of grain. Second shot, leg. The other rider screamed, fell, scrambled behind a rock. Boone. Gone. Vanished into the smoke pouring from the cabin. Silas ran for the door. Heat slapped him in the face. Flames climbed the walls. The Apache boy's body was half consumed. The woman. Still hanging. Still burning. But the whimper, louder now. Coming from beneath the floor. A trapdoor. He kicked it open. Stairs. Dark. Smelling of damp earth and fear. He descended. 1 step. 2. Gun raised. At the bottom, a child. Boy. Maybe 5. Curled in a corner. Face streaked with soot and tears. Clutching a wooden horse. Eyes wide. Silent now. Alive. Silas lowered his rifle. "It's all right, son," he whispered. "You're safe." The boy didn't move. Didn't blink. Just stared. Like he'd seen too much to believe in safe. Train whistle drifted through the distance. Faint. Lonely. Silas carried the boy out through the back. Flames roared behind them. The cabin groaned. Timbers cracked. The woman's body finally fell, crashing through the burning rafters, landing with a wet thud beside her lover. No time to mourn. No time to bury. Boone was still out there. And now Silas had a child. He mounted his horse. Set the boy in front of him. Wrapped his coat around the small, shaking frame. "Got a name, kid?" he asked. The boy didn't answer. Just pointed. West. Toward the mountains. Silas nodded. Kicked the horse into a gallop. Behind them, the cabin collapsed in a shower of sparks. And from the ridge, a single shot rang out. Missed. But not by much. Coyotes howled across the empty plains. They rode all night. The boy slept fitfully, head lolling against Silas's chest. His breath smelled like milk and smoke. His fingers clutched Silas's shirt like it was the only thing keeping the world from falling apart. Silas didn't sleep. Couldn't. Every mile, he checked the horizon. Every shadow, he saw Boone's face. Every gust of wind, he heard the woman's rope creaking. Who was she? Why was she with the Apache? Why did Boone burn them? And why leave the boy alive? Dawn broke blood-red over the hills. They found water at a dry creek bed, a trickle, really. Silas let the horse drink. Washed the boy's face. Gave him a strip of jerky. The boy ate slow. Eyes never leaving Silas's. You gonna talk? Silas asked. The boy shook his head. Can't or won't. Another shake. Silas sighed. Mounted up. All right. We ride till we hit Silver Bend. Sheriff there owes me a favor. Maybe he can, gunfire. Close. Too close. Silas yanked the reins. Horse reared. The boy tumbled into the dirt. 3 riders burst from the rocks. Not Boone's men. These wore bandanas. Rifles gleaming. Outlaws. Hands high, old man, one shouted. That's a fine horse you're sittin' on. Silas raised his hands. Slow. The boy scrambled behind him. Trembling. Take the horse, Silas said. Leave the boy. The leader laughed. We'll take both. Kid'll fetch a pretty penny in Sonora. Silas's jaw tightened. He had 1 bullet left. 1. He glanced at the boy. Then at the outlaws. Then at the rising sun. Red. Like blood. Like fire. Like the dress of the woman on the roof. He made his choice. The wind carried the scent of gunpowder and sage. Silas didn't shoot the leader. He shot the horse. His own horse. Right between the eyes. The beast dropped like a stone. Silas grabbed the boy. Rolled behind the falling body. Bullets kicked up dirt. Whizzed overhead. Run! Silas roared. The boy didn't move. Frozen. Eyes locked on the outlaws. Silas shoved him hard. Run! The boy stumbled. Fell. Got up. Ran. Silas fired his last bullet. Hit the outlaw's shoulder. Man screamed. Fell from his saddle. The other 2 charged. Silas drew his knife. Waited. They came fast. First one swung a machete. Silas ducked. Slashed upward. Opened the man's thigh. Blood sprayed. Man howled. Second outlaw raised his pistol. Too slow. Silas lunged. Drove the knife into his gut. Twisted. Pulled. The man gurgled. Collapsed. Silas turned. The first outlaw was crawling away. Leaving a red trail. Silas walked over. Boot on his back. Who sent you? He growled. The man coughed blood. Ain't nobody sent us. Silas pressed harder. Bull. You knew we'd be here. Knew we'd be alone. The man grinned. Teeth red. Preacher, paid us, double, if we brought the boy, alive. Silas's blood turned to ice. Boone. Of course. He looked toward the hills. The boy was gone. Vanished. Where'd he go? Silas demanded. The outlaw laughed. Weak. Wet. Doesn't matter. Reverend's got men, everywhere. Silas drove the knife deeper. The man stopped laughing. Firelight flickered under endless skies. Silas found the boy curled beneath a juniper tree. Asleep. Or pretending to be. His wooden horse lay beside him. One wheel broken. Silas sat. Built a small fire. Boiled water. Made coffee. Didn't drink it. Just let the steam warm his face. He watched the boy. Small. Pale. Haunted. Like he'd been born into grief. Silas thought of his own son. Dead before he turned 2. Buried under a crooked cross near a river that dried up the next year. He'd promised his wife he'd be a better father next time. Promised he'd stay. Build a home. Plant roots. He ran instead. Now here he was. Chasing ghosts. Protecting a child who didn't even know his name. The boy stirred. Opened his eyes. Looked at Silas. Looked at the fire. Looked at the stars. Then, softly, "Mama." Silas's chest cracked open. He nodded. "Yeah, kid. I know." The boy sat up. Rubbed his eyes. She didn't want to leave. Silas froze. Leave? The boy nodded. Town. She said, it was poison. Said the preacher, watched her. Said the men, touched her when Papa was gone. Silas's hands clenched. Papa was Apache. The boy shook his head. No. Mama ran to him. After Papa died. Preacher said, she was dirty. Said the baby, was a sin. Silas stared into the flames. So that's how it was. Not forbidden love. Survival. The woman ran to the only man who offered her kindness. And Boone. He didn't just punish her. He made an example. Burned her. Hanged her. Left her child to watch. To remember. To break. Silas stood. Kicked dirt over the fire. We're leaving, he said. The boy didn't ask where. Just stood. Picked up his broken horse. Followed. Far off, a church bell tolled. They reached Silver Bend at noon. Town looked dead. Shutters closed. Streets empty. Even the saloon was dark. Only sound. The creak of a hanging sign. Last Chance Saloon. Silas led the boy to the sheriff's office. Door was open. Inside, blood on the floor. Chair overturned. Badge on the desk. Nameplate, Sheriff H. Calloway. Gone. Or dead. Silas cursed. Turned. Boone stood in the doorway. Smiling. Hat in hand. No need to run, Silas, he said. Voice smooth. Like oil on hot iron. We've been expecting you. Behind him, 6 men. Rifles drawn. Faces hard. Silas stepped in front of the boy. You want him? You go through me. Boone chuckled. Always the hero, ain't you? Even after your wife begged you to stay home. Even after your son died because you were off playing lawman. Silas flinched. Boone knew. Of course he knew. Give me the boy, Boone said. And I'll let you walk. Swear on the good book. Silas looked down at the child. The boy looked up. Eyes dry. Calm. Like he already knew how this ended. Silas made his choice. He shoved the boy backward, through the open window behind them. "Run," he roared. Gunfire exploded. Silas dove behind the desk. Bullets tore through wood. Glass shattered. Men shouted. He fired twice. 2 men dropped. Boone. Gone. Again. Silas scrambled to the window. Looked out. The boy was running. Fast. Toward the train yard. Silas ran after him. Bullets chased him. One grazed his arm. Hot. Wet. He didn't stop. Couldn't. The train whistle screamed. Silas found the boy clinging to the ladder of a freight car. Engine already chugging. Smoke pouring. Wheels grinding. "Climb!" Silas yelled. The boy reached down. Grabbed Silas's hand. Pulled. Silas hauled himself up. Collapsed onto the metal floor. Gasping. The boy crawled into his lap. Shaking. Silas held him tight. Behind them, Boone and his men reached the platform. Rifles raised. Too late. The train lurched forward. Gained speed. Boone fired anyway. Bullets pinged off metal. One hit the boy's shoulder. Small. Clean. But enough. The boy cried out. Clutched his arm. Silas ripped his shirt. Tied it tight. "It's all right," he whispered. "You're safe now." The boy looked up. Eyes wet. "Are you my papa now?" Silas's breath caught. He looked out at the desert rushing past. At the dust rising like ghosts. At the sun setting like a wound. "No, son," he said softly. "But I'll be the closest thing you get." The coyotes howled again. Closer this time. The train carried them north. Past ghost towns. Past burned-out ranches, past graveyards with no names. The boy slept. Silas didn't. He watched the stars. Listened to the wheels. Felt the boy's heartbeat against his chest. He thought of the woman on the roof. Of the Apache boy on the floor. Of Boone's smile. Of his own promises, broken, buried, bleeding. He made a new one. Quiet. To himself. To the boy. To the ghosts riding beside them. "I won't run anymore." Dawn came. Pale. Cold. The train slowed near a river crossing. Silas lifted the boy gently. Stepped onto the gravel. No town here. No people. Just water. Trees. Silence. He set the boy down. Took his hand. "Where are we going?" the boy asked. Silas looked west. Toward the mountains. Toward the place where the woman had run. Where the Apache had loved her. Where Boone's fire couldn't reach. "Somewhere they won't find us," he said. The boy nodded. Didn't ask more. They walked. Side by side. Boots crunching on frost. Breath fogging the air. Behind them, the train vanished into the horizon. Ahead? Nothing. Everything. The wind whispered through the pines. They found a cave by noon. Deep. Dry. Hidden. Silas built a fire. Roasted a rabbit he caught in a snare. Gave the boy the legs. Ate the bones himself. The boy watched him. Quiet. Then, "What's your name?" Silas paused. Looked at the flames. Silas. The boy nodded. "I'm Jonah." Silas smiled. "First real one in years. Good name." Jonah held up his wooden horse. "Mama made it." Silas took it. Turned it in his hands. Carved with care. Wheels worn smooth. She loved you, he said. Jonah nodded. She told me to run. Said you'd come. Silas froze. She knew me? Jonah shook his head. No. But she said, if a man with sad eyes finds you, trust him. He's running from the same thing. Silas stared into the fire. Sad eyes. Yeah. He had those. And now? Now he had a boy. A name. A purpose. And a preacher still hunting them. Gun smoke clung to the air like guilt. They stayed in the cave 3 days. Silas taught Jonah how to set snares. How to read tracks. How to stay silent. Jonah taught Silas how to laugh again. Small sounds. Barely there. But real. On the 4th morning, Silas woke to hoofbeats. Close. Too close. He grabbed his rifle. Peeked through the brush. Boone. Alone. Dismounted. Tethering his horse. Smiling. Like he'd found treasure. Silas chambered around. Jonah appeared beside him. Eyes wide. Is it him? Silas nodded. What do we do? Silas looked at the boy. Looked at the rifle. Looked at the rising sun. He made his choice. He stepped out of the cave. Hands raised. Boone, he shouted. The preacher turned. Smiled wider. Silas. Knew you'd show yourself for the boy. Silas walked forward. Slow. Let him go. Take me. Boone laughed. Oh, I'll take you both. But first, kneel. Silas didn't move. Boone drew his pistol. Aimed at Jonah. Kneel. Or the boy dies where he stands. Silas dropped to his knees. Boone walked closer. Bootsteps crunching on frost. Any last words, sinner? Silas looked up. Eyes dry. Calm. Yeah. He smiled. Run, Jonah. Boone frowned. Too late. Jonah bolted, not away. Toward Boone. Slammed into his legs. Boone stumbled. Fired wild. Silas lunged. Tackled him. They rolled. Grappling. Punching. Clawing. Boone got a hand free. Drew a knife. Slashed. Silas grunted. Felt the burn across his ribs. He grabbed Boone's wrist. Slammed it against a rock. Once. Twice. Bone cracked. Boone screamed. Silas straddled him. Pinned him. Looked into his eyes. You burn women, he growled. You break children. You call yourself holy. Boone spat blood. God will judge you. Silas nodded. Maybe. He drove the knife into Boone's chest. Once. Twice. 3 times. Boone stopped breathing. Stopped judging. Stopped smiling. The church bell tolled one last time. Or maybe it was the wind. Silas stood. Wiped the blade. Walked to Jonah. The boy stared at Boone's body. Face pale. Eyes dry. You killed him, he whispered. Silas nodded. Yeah. Was it wrong? Silas looked at the sky. At the mountains. At the boy. Maybe. He knelt. Put a hand on Jonah's shoulder. But some men, they ain't meant to live in this world. They just poison it. Jonah nodded. Slow. Like he understood more than he should. They buried Boone shallow. No marker. No prayer. Just dirt. And silence. They walked for weeks. Found a valley. Green. Quiet. Far from towns. Far from preachers. Built a cabin. Small. Sturdy. Roof that didn't sag. Jonah helped. Hammered nails. Carried wood. Laughed when he missed. Silas watched him. Smiled when he didn't think the boy saw. At night, they sat by the fire. Jonah carved a new wheel for his horse. Silas sharpened his knife. Sometimes, the boy asked about his mama. Silas told him the truth. She was brave. She loved you. She chose freedom over fear. Jonah would nod. Stare into the flames. Then ask, will they come for us? Silas always answered the same. Not if I'm breathing. Winter came early. Snow fell soft. Silent. One night, Jonah woke screaming. Nightmare. Silas held him. Rocked him. Sang an old lullaby his wife used to hum. Jonah calmed. Looked up. Are you my papa now? Silas looked at the fire. At the snow outside. At the boy in his arms. He kissed Jonah's forehead. Yeah, son, he whispered. I reckon I am. Spring thawed the land. Grass grew. Birds returned. The river ran clear. One morning, Silas found Jonah by the grave. Just standing there. Quiet. Silas joined him. No words. Just wind. Just silence. Just peace. Then Jonah spoke. I forgive him. Silas looked down. Boone. Jonah nodded. Mama said, hates a fire. Burns the one who holds it. Silas swallowed hard. Nodded. Smart woman, your mama. Jonah turned. Smiled. First real one Silas had seen. Yeah, he said. She was. They walked back to the cabin. Hand in hand. The sun rose behind them. Warm. Golden. Alive. Years passed. Jonah grew tall. Strong. Quiet like Silas. Quick with a rifle. Gentle with horses. They never went back to town. Never spoke of Boone. Never spoke of the roof. But sometimes, at dusk, Silas would catch Jonah staring west. At the mountains. At the place where it all began. One evening, Jonah turned to him. I'm gonna go. Silas didn't ask where. Didn't ask why. Just nodded. Need anything? Jonah shook his head. Just, don't wait up. Silas smiled. Ain't gonna. They shook hands. Hugged. Then Jonah mounted his horse. Rode west. Silas watched till he vanished. Then he walked inside. Sat by the fire. Looked at the wooden horse on the shelf. One was still broken. He picked it up. Turned it in his hands. Smiled. Whispered, be brave, son. The wind howled through the hollows. Silas died that winter. Quiet. In his sleep. Jonah found him in the morning. Still in his chair. Still by the fire. Still holding the wooden horse. He buried him deep. Under a pine. Facing west. No marker. No prayer. Just silence. And snow. Years later, a stranger rode into a town near the mountains. Asked about a woman hanged on a roof. About an Apache burned beside her. About a preacher who vanished. The bartender shrugged. Old story. Nobody talks about it. The stranger nodded. Left a coin on the bar. Rode out. At dusk, he stopped at a ridge. Looked down at a cabin. Roof sagging. Smoke rising. He dismounted. Walked to the porch. Sat on the step. Pulled out a wooden horse. Set it beside him. Waited. For the wind. For the coyotes. For the ghosts. They came. As they always do. He smiled. Whispered, "I'm home, Papa." And the desert? It listened. But never answered.